Okay, think about the biggest, most powerful real estate empires in the world. When you try to picture them, your mind probably jumps to premium corporate developers, right? Massive tech hubs in Silicon Valley, towering glass skyscrapers in Manhattan, maybe global luxury hotel chains. But what if I told you that one of the greatest, most bulletproof landowning empires in human history is actually cleverly disguised as a burger joint? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on an absolute masterclass in capitalism. We're going to reveal the hidden financial mechanics behind those famous golden arches and show you exactly how flipping patties was really just the very first step in a global real estate heist. To truly wrap your head around the sheer, unprecedented scale of what we're talking about here, you have to look at this number. Today, this brand operates over 40,000 locations worldwide. And its corporate entity, it's worth a staggering $190 billion. That's billion with a B. That is a valuation higher than the GDP of many developed nations, and it honestly dwarfs some of the most famous legacy corporations on Earth. But here is the multi-billion-dollar secret that is completely going to change how you look at your next drive-through visit. Corporate headquarters doesn't actually make its real money by selling Big Macs, French fries, or chicken nuggets. Yeah, you heard that right. From a purely financial and structural standpoint, the hamburgers and the fries, they're kind of just a brilliant side hustle. They are simply a highly effective customer acquisition vehicle. Selling a cheap burger is the bait. It draws millions of hungry people into their buildings every single day, all to feed a massive, hyper-profitable real estate corporation.
Part 1. Ray Kroc's Broken Business and the Financial Trap of the 1950s.
Let's dive into where this all began, because this brilliant strategy was actually born out of sheer desperation. Back in the 1950s, America was in a massive post-war boom. A struggling franchising agent named Ray Kroc discovered the McDonald brothers' incredibly efficient assembly line fast food system out in California. He was totally mesmerized, so he bought the rights to scale it across America. But he immediately ran into a huge, almost fatal wall. Early on, Kroc's business was essentially broken. His original franchising deal was, well, it was terrible for him. His model relied entirely on taking a minuscule 1.9% of the gross burger sales from his franchisees. And from that tiny sliver, he still had to give a cut back to the founding brothers. So once Kroc paid for his own corporate overhead, travel costs, secretaries, and regional marketing, his profit margins were virtually non-existent. He was working incredibly hard, overseeing the sale of millions of hamburgers, but he was literally drowning in debt. So Kroc quickly realized that selling food alone was just a treadmill to nowhere. Taking pennies on a 15-cent hamburger wasn't going to build a global empire. He needed a completely new blueprint. Instead of just selling the rights to flip burgers and handing operators a paper hat, the corporate entity realized they needed to pivot entirely. They needed to start buying the actual dirt beneath those stores. This massive paradigm shift is perfectly summed up by the man Kroc hired as his first chief financial officer, a literal financial wizard named Harry Sonneborn. Sonneborn looked at the failing food revenue numbers and famously gave Kroc this piece of advice. He said, "You're not in the food business, you're in the real estate business. The only reason you sell hamburgers is because they are the greatest producer of revenue from which your tenants can pay you rent." And honestly, that single profound realization changed the entire trajectory of the company forever.
Part 2. The Ultimate Landlord Game, Breaking Down the Franchise Model.
The crucial point here is understanding exactly how this system is practically designed to maximize corporate profits while shifting all the heavy lifting elsewhere. To grasp the absolute genius of this, let's use a really simple analogy. Think about how standard run-of-the-mill franchising usually works. Typically, a parent company lets you use their brand name, gives you their secret recipes, and takes a cut of your sales. You, the eager business owner, have to go out, find a commercial building, and sign a lease with a random local landlord. You carry all that real estate burden. But with this unique twist, corporate does the exact opposite. They act as the overarching landlord. They find the prime real estate themselves, buy it outright, and then legally obligate you, the franchisee, to rent that property exclusively from them. Here is how this master plan works step by step in the real world. Step 1. Corporate headquarters uses their massive data resources to secure the absolute best, highest traffic pieces of land in a city. Step 2. They don't just pass the underlying cost of that land along to the franchisee. No way. They mark up the rent by 20 to 40% right out of the gate. That creates an immediate mathematically locked-in profit margin for corporate before a single spatula is lifted or a burger is ever sold. And finally, step 3.
The franchisee signs a long-term lease. They basically become the ultimate captive tenant who is highly motivated to work 80-hour weeks just to pay their rent. This whole dynamic creates a highly lucrative setup known as the double whammy rent structure. These commercial lease agreements are ingeniously designed so the franchisee pays a guaranteed base minimum rent or a percentage of their gross monthly sales, whichever number happens to be higher. So, let's say the base rent is $10,000 a month. If the location struggles, corporate is completely protected. They still get their 10 grand. But what if that specific location is an absolute gold mine making millions of dollars? Corporate doesn't just settle for the base rent. They take their percentage cut of that massive success. It is a brilliant, entirely one-sided win for headquarters. And beyond just capturing profit upside, this structure acts as an incredible inflation shield. I mean, have you noticed menu prices skyrocketing lately? Well, under this structure, corporate absolutely loves that. As the cost of food goes up and menu prices rise with inflation, the gross revenue of the individual restaurant naturally increases. And because the rent owed is tied to a percentage of those higher gross sales, corporate's real estate revenue automatically adjusts upward. They effectively give themselves a raise to beat inflation without having to actually lift a finger or do any extra work. Part 3, a bulletproof balance sheet and shifting the operational risk. We really need to look at the financial architecture of this business, because this landlord always wins structure does something magical for the parent company. It creates a bulletproof balance sheet by totally offloading the absolute hardest, most stressful parts of running a restaurant. Running a commercial kitchen is incredibly risky, but notice how the operational risks are divided up here. Who pays for the expensive deep fryers, the walk-in freezers, and the staff payroll? The franchisee. Who handles local marketing, crazy late-night shifts, and manages the perishable inventory? The franchisee. If global beef or potato prices suddenly skyrocket due to supply chain issues, it absolutely crushes the franchisee's personal wallet. Meanwhile, corporate just sits back in a high-rise office and confidently collects that guaranteed, highly stable rent check on the first of the month. And this is exactly why this is considered one of the most recession-proof business models in existence. During a major economic downturn or volatile market period, the individual franchisee's profits are going to fluctuate wildly. They go up and down based on local consumer spending, minimum wage hikes, food costs, you name it. But compare that chaotic roller coaster to the corporate real estate revenues. The landlord side of the business remains an incredibly stable, predictable upward trend, completely insulated from the day-to-day chaos, grease, and grime of the actual food service industry. Part 4. The dirt underneath and the value of the land portfolio. Because of this relentless, decades-long strategy of buying up properties and leasing them back at a steep premium, the parent company has quietly amassed something far more historically valuable than just a beloved fast food brand. If you look at their balance sheet today, they own billions of dollars worth of prime real estate. We are talking about the most expensive intersections, major highway off-ramps, and the busiest city corners across the entire globe. A massive chunk of their $190 billion corporate value comes not from their intellectual property or their secret sauce, but from this appreciating physical land. And here's the real kicker. Banks love physical dirt. Because corporate holds these hard, tangible assets, it serves as the ultimate financial collateral. I mean, banks don't really want to repossess a hamburger recipe, right? But they absolutely value prime commercial real estate. This allows the corporation to leverage this dirt to borrow massive amounts of money at incredibly low interest rates, which funds even more aggressive global expansion. So what you should really take away from this explainer is that the entire fast food experience you see is essentially a brilliant, highly calibrated disguise. They mastered the art of leveraging a core, addictive product, cheap, fast, consistent food, to fund and control a much bigger, significantly more stable asset class. The real multi-generational wealth isn't bubbling in the deep fryer or sizzling on the grill. It's being generated silently, beneath the floorboards, in the dirt right under the drive-thru window. Next time you pull up to get a quick bite, take a look around at the intersection you're sitting at. You aren't just idling in a line for a burger. You're physically sitting on a small piece of one of the smartest, most ruthlessly efficient real estate portfolios ever constructed. Which leaves us with a fascinating business question to ponder. Is this landlord-tenant franchise structure a masterclass of pure, unadulterated capitalist genius? Or does it border on an unfair corporate monopoly that systematically squeezes the local business owner? Let that marinate the next time you're waiting for your fries.